Medium format cameras have always carried a certain mystique. They promise unmatched image quality, rich tonal range, and the prestige of shooting with a legendary brand. But they've also been known for being slow, quirky, and not always practical for fast-paced, real-world photography. When Hasselblad launched the original X2D, I was impressed by its image quality and ergonomics, but I walked away with 5 major frustrations that kept me from fully adopting it. Now, with the release of the Hasselblad X2D II, the question is, did Hasselblad listen? Did they fix the things that mattered? I spent time with the new X2D II in my studio and on location, and I want to share not only what's new, but also how it actually performs in practice. The 5 biggest issues with the original X2D before diving into what's changed, let's quickly revisit the problems I had with the first generation X2D. 1. Studio focusing in darkness. Without exposure simulation or bright screen options, it was nearly impossible to focus in a dark studio setup. Autofocus often hunted or gave false positives, and I was forced into manual focus more often than I'd like. 2. No autofocus. The X2D only offered face detection. That meant plenty of missed focus shots, with eyelashes sharp while the eyes weren't. For medium format portraiture, that was a deal breaker. 3. Lack of continuous autofocus. You had to refocus shot by shot. For moving subjects, it simply couldn't keep up with modern Sony, Canon, or Nikon cameras. 4. No joystick for focus point control. Hasselblad's minimalist design approach was too minimal here. Moving focus points with the touchscreen was slow and frustrating. 5. Battery life. Even on shoots where it should have lasted comfortably, the X2D drained quickly. Combined with power-hungry features, it wasn't reliable for a full day. Those were the hurdles. Let's see what Hasselblad has done with the X2D II. Autofocus. The game-changing upgraded headline feature of the X2D II is unquestionably its new hybrid autofocus system, combining phase detection with LiDAR light detection and ranging technology. So what does this mean? Traditional contrast or phase detection systems need visible light and contrast to lock focus. LiDAR emits infrared light, measures how it bounces back, and creates its own focusing data even in near darkness. In the studio, this is a night and day difference. I tested the X2D II at f8 and 1/125th sec, with almost no ambient light. The original X2D would have hunted endlessly. The X2D II locked focus instantly, accurately, and without hesitation. I even pointed it at a plain gray wall with no contrast, something impossible for most cameras. The LiDAR nailed it. For studio shooters who often kill ambient light to work purely with strobes, this fixes one of the X2D's biggest weaknesses. Autofocus that works. Lack of IF on the X2D was frustrating. Shooting at medium formats, shallow depth of field means that I absolutely must be tack sharp. Now, the X2D II delivers face and eye detection AF. In my rapid-fire test, I took 19 consecutive close-up portraits at f4. Only one shot missed focus. That's a huge leap forward. It's not just Hasselblad good. It's competitive with Sony and Canon in terms of hit rate, something I never thought I'd say about a medium format system. Continuous autofocus plus subject detection with the X2D II. You finally get continuous autofocus with subject tracking. And it's not half-baked. It feels familiar if you've shot with Sony or Canon. A tracking box locks onto the subject's eye or face. As the subject moves toward or away from the camera, focus adjusts seamlessly. Even when the subject turns around, the system switches to head or body tracking. You also get subject detection modes for people, animals, and cars. The system is smart enough to follow moving subjects across the frame, and with the joystick, more on that next, you can switch between detected subjects instantly. Medium format has never been associated with speed or reliability in AF, but this camera genuinely changes that. The joystick, a simple but vital addition. It sounds small, but the lack of a joystick on the first X2D was maddening. Relying on a touchscreen to move focus points in a professional setting was a workflow killer. Now, Hasselblad has listened. The joystick is tactile, responsive, and customizable. There's also an extra custom button below it. You can map the joystick press for quick access to key functions. This one addition alone massively improves usability. Battery life. Here's the reality. Battery life hasn't meaningfully improved. When connected to Hasselblad's Focus to mobile app, the battery drains significantly faster. Without the app, it's similar to the X2D II, good enough for a typical shoot, but worse than most full-frame cameras. Plan on carrying spares. Wireless tethering and mobile workflow. Hasselblad's Focus to mobile app is excellent. You can tether wirelessly to an iPad, view images almost instantly, and manage shoots without cables. For client work, this is huge. Images look gorgeous on a large iPad screen instead of being compressed like on Instagram. That said, relying on the app for live view simulation is still clunky. Hasselblad maintains that brightening the screen artificially doesn't represent the true exposure when using flash. While that's philosophically correct, in practice I want the option for easier focusing and composing in dark studios. Hopefully, this can be addressed via firmware. Arbitrary tracking and custom focus mode. Another clever addition is arbitrary tracking, Hasselblad's version of Sony's lock on AF. Place the focus box on an object, not just a face. The camera then tracks it across the frame, even without subject recognition. Useful for when subjects turn away or when tracking non-human objects. Additionally, the X2D II offers 425 PDF points up from 290 for and more focus point customization. You can resize the AF area, create custom rectangles, and even use Touch AF in manual focus mode, tapping the screen for quick focusing before fine-tuning manually. Image stabilization. The X2D II improves its already impressive stabilization, 10 stops of IBIS versus 7 stops on the previous version. Handheld 1-second exposures are possible. For travel, street photography, or low-light shooting, this is borderline magical. Build and Ergonomics. X2D II is physically familiar but subtly refined. Graphite gray finish with new grip texture feels premium. Slightly lighter than the X2D, around 40 to 50 g less. One of the most comfortable medium format bodies to hold. The rear screen also gets a meaningful upgrade. It now pops further away from the body and tilts both upward and downward. Shooting from the hip or overhead is finally practical without the VF blocking part of the view. Image quality. No changes here, still the same 10MP medium format sensor with native ISO 50-15.3 stops dynamic range. In practice, this is plenty. As I've said before, past a certain point, dynamic range doesn't change real-world results. If you need to push a file 5 stops in post, odds are it wasn't a keeper shot anyway. Price. Here's the surprise. The X2D II costs $7,400, $800 less than the original X2D. Considering the improvements, that's impressive. Hasselblad could easily have raised the price. What hasn't changed? Not everything is perfect. EVF lag. There is still a noticeable delay, around half a second before the VF activates when you raise the camera to your eye. Small, but annoying when working quickly. Battery life, as mentioned, still average at best. No native exposure simulation option. You'll need the app as a workaround. Final thoughts. The Hasselblad X2D II is not a radical reinvention. Instead, it's a careful refinement that directly addresses the pain points of the original. Autofocus is the single biggest leap, transforming it from a slow, frustrating system into one that can genuinely keep up with professional demands. Ergonomic improvements like the joystick and tilting screen show that Hasselblad listened to feedback. IBIS, subject detection, arbitrary tracking, and more make it feel less like a niche tool and more like a true professional workhorse. At $7,400, this isn't a casual purchase. But for photographers who crave Hasselblad's legendary image quality in a body that finally handles like a modern mirrorless camera, the X2D II may be the first medium format system that can seriously compete with full frame in speed and workflow. It doesn't just shoot like a Hasselblad, it shoots like a Sony or Canon, but with that unmistakable medium format look. And that is something I never thought I'd say.